I was outraged and threatened divorce while visiting with my sister after my husband secretly upgraded to business class and left me with our 2 kids on a flight. My husband Andrew, 32M, and I, 30F, and our 3-year-old daughter and 1.5-year-old son are the center. Andrew and I have been married 5 years and together 8 years. Friends introduced us and we grew up. Good things have happened, yet he needs parenting training. I handled most of the work after our kid was born because Dad was clueless. We had a nanny at work, but when we were home, on weekends and other times, I did most of the job because he didn't know how and was frightened to care for the baby alone. Slowly he learned. I don't mind. But after that, even with our son, he struggled with 2 kids. He took so long to acclimate that I felt like a single mother. I did everything and he was there whenever we took our kids outside. We argued, but I forgave him because I couldn't use it against him. He needed time to adjust, but I knew he would be a good dad. Hoped he would. We took a family vacation to La a few weeks ago. It's beautiful, and my sister Abby, 26F, just moved there with her husband, so I visited her. The vacation took weeks to plan because traveling with kids was hard. When we arrived at the airport 2 days earlier, Andrew asked to use the restroom and left. I contacted him to ask where he was after 30 minutes, worried he wouldn't return. He replied instantly when I called and avoided explaining why he hadn't returned. I told him to stop. I learned that he upgraded to business class while buying the flights because he had enough points. I felt upset and betrayed, but he said he knew I wouldn't approve, so he hadn't told me. That stupid thing, I said, fueled my wrath. Since I was enraged that he even tried, I urged him to return to his family immediately, or I would go home with the kids and he could go on the trip alone. Instead of returning, he opposed me and said he deserved a break for working hard for the family. He felt I could handle the kids for 3 hours on a short flight. I tried to tell him that it wasn't only about the kids and that I needed him there because this was a family vacation, and if it didn't start well, what's the point? My heart was broken, but he was too thick to understand my anger and merely said he deserved a break and hung up. And that move enraged me. As a working parent, I should have the first break. I manage the house and kids with little help from him. He sleeps at home, despite working more than me. Without my request, he can't leave my family. I pondered going home, but I chose to make the trip worthwhile. My daughter asked several questions about her father's absence. I told her to find the answers when we got there, and didn't answer any. I didn't talk to him after he hung up on our solo flight. Thank goodness my kids were calm and slept on the way. I didn't wait for Andrew after landing. I took a cab to Abby's without retrieving our luggage. I was enraged and realized its injustice after 3 hours in the plane alone. At my sister's house, she was happy to see me, but once I sat down and explained the situation, she stated I could stay without anxiety. Leaving everything behind didn't matter because I simply had clothing and shoes to replace. Abby promised to replace my kids' stuff, so I didn't care. Andrew kept calling me once we landed, but I ignored him. He couldn't come since he didn't know Abby's address. My injuries prevented me from answering his SMS asking where I was. We spoke after approximately 2 hours after landing when I contacted him. He was anxious and informed me he had been waiting at the airport with the family's bags for 2 hours but couldn't find us. He was sickened by what happened. I told him I was safe with the kids. I told him I was at Abby's and wouldn't see him for the rest of the vacation and would divorce when we returned. He seemed surprised and told me I was exaggerating and overreacting. I was in no mood when he invited me to the hotel to gently talk things. I told him this one instance showed me how unjust things had been for 2 years since our child was born. I told him he had wanted a break from his family and shouldn't whine about his time. He was outraged and tried to retract his statement. He apologized if I misinterpreted him and stated he wanted silence because work was difficult and he was trying to support the family. I laughed out loud and told him I had similar feelings but never sought to flee my family. He did that knowing I didn't appreciate his choice. I told him I always did more cleaning and raised our kids than him. I like handling everything. I knew we would stick together as a family. His acts made me distrust him. His assertion of equal contribution was false. Not sure why, but it felt like I controlled the house and had to tell him what to do before he did it. Shared dwelling. He presumably knew what to do, like getting groceries on time or buying the kids' basics. Example, laundry and dishwasher. I hated having to tell him to do it or he wouldn't. I tried to convince him he had free will, could see what needed to be done, and didn't need me to tell him, but he always had excuses. As he was often too tired to notice after work, I accepted that. He probably owed me a discussion before upgrading to business class and leaving. He just played with the kids on weekends, but he rarely raised, taught, or disciplined them. He always played the good cop and fun dad while I did the work. I had complained several times, and he always promised to be more proactive, but nothing changed, and I was tired of waiting. Recent years, I felt like a single mother whose husband was only around on weekends like a fun relative, and not her children's father. He swore he'd change again after I told him everything, but I didn't believe him. I lost trust in him after the airport incident, because he pushed me too far. He hung up when I told him I wanted him with us, leaving me with our 2 kids. He was to enjoy the holiday alone while I did. Our separation was inevitable. I would keep us apart after we returned. He required solitude. After hanging up, Abby said I did the right thing because Andrew had several chances to change. But he hadn't. After the phone call, Andrew kept phoning and messaging me that he was sorry and would repair everything, but I needed to come to the hotel to talk to him. He promised to fix problems but wanted to discuss. After repeatedly telling me to come to the hotel, he offered to meet me elsewhere. He merely needed Abby's home address. Don't want to see him. I disregarded those messages, but my mother-in-law called 2 hours ago. I picked her up when she and my father-in-law were on the phone because we've never been enemies. They apologized for Andrew after hearing what happened. I liked their kindness. Don't feel bad, this was between me and Andrew. They phoned me to ask me not to divorce since Andrew had told them I was considering it and it would make it harder for them to see the kids. I promised not to restrict our kids' access. Personally, I haven't considered complete custody, scared and unsure what to do. I tried to calm them down, but they were scared and were imploring me to give Andrew another chance. They said I shouldn't leave him so soon because we've been together for 8 years and are just going through a rough patch. Hanging up with his parents feels odd. Before the call, I knew what to do. Andrew constantly begging me to talk to him and says we can work things out because we've been together for a decade and been through worse. We'll additionally resolve this. Since I can see they're trying to get me back to him, I may have overreacted. I find his airport behavior unjust. So I'd threatened divorce because my husband upgraded to business class and left me with our 2 kids before a vacation? Abby and her husband had hosted me in LA for 3 days. They hosted me and helped me through this difficult time. As Abby and I shared clothes, the kids got new ones. Today I met Andrew and he brought our luggage so we may wear our clothes again. I responded to Andrew last night after considerable argument with Abby and her husband. I only gave him the address. I thought he would come without telling me. After that, I felt uneasy. He arrived this morning with baggage and everything, so Abby and her husband took the kids to a separate room. The kids were happy to see Dad since they had been asking about him. There was a lot of hugging and yelling, and I understood that even if I filed for divorce, I would never get full custody. He and they were happy around their father. We talked while the kids were in another room. It was awkward. He sincerely apologized for being a poor father and husband. He said none of this was important, but he hadn't considered how I felt, which was selfish. He finally told me he appreciated everything I did for the family and how hard I tried to please everyone. I said these were nice things, but I needed change and had given him many chances, but he never took it seriously. That triggered today's problem. I told him that the airport incident hurt me and that maybe I overreacted, but everything kept piling on and I couldn't handle it anymore. I anticipated another defensive response. But he kneeled and took my hands. I realized I still loved him no matter how he treated me because it made me feel safe and untouchable. I wept when he kneeled. Sorry, he needs to help his family. He said he lived for work and came home fatigued and worried about the future. He was too sure his wages weren't enough to worry about anything else. He admitted to stress-related anxiety medication for 2 months. I was informed he didn't tell me to prevent worry. He was ashamed of falling asleep at the wheel, but he wanted one chance to work with me and promised to make it worth it so I wouldn't regret it. I cried as he talked. While always, I placed my head on his shoulder while he cleaned my tears and sat next to me. We sat there for a few minutes. Staying with him may be unpopular, but I did it. I adore him so strongly I can't love anybody else. I didn't care what others thought. Loved my kids and wanted the best for them. I requested some time to think. I was told I could take my time. He went back to the motel after hugging. Abby said she has no ideas after talking to me. She admires my marriage and parenting. She understands I'll do what's best for the family. Our conversation today reminded me of Andrew's opinion. Since we both work, he's always been more stressed about work than I have. It must be hard. He may have been focused on work because his family has struggled financially since his father lost his job, and for years when he was younger. Though not an excuse, it is. I realized we had a communication gap when he was so stressed out for so long, and didn't tell me because he didn't want me to worry. If we can fix that, we can move past this. We'll see what happens after contemplating. Many days have gone since my last update. 2 days following our conversation, I moved in with Andrew in our hotel room. Finally left Abby's hair with kids. I thanked her for hosting and supporting me. Since she and her husband left me off at the motel, we've been together. We feared our dispute was disappointing the kids because we promised a fun trip and stayed apart. There was little fun. After coming together, the kids are happier and we're accomplishing all we intended. I have many unanswered questions, but we're trying to be a family for the kids. We prioritize our kids' happiness and well-being. We can survive worse, he was right. I told him I wasn't considering divorce when I returned to the hotel with the kids. But we had much to resolve. He was so excited when I told him I wasn't divorcing that he hugged me, hoisted me, and did a turn. He probably didn't hear the last bit, and I couldn't repeat it since I was laughing. He apologizes every morning and makes amends. I'm fine with his treating me like a princess. I may forgive him sooner if this continues. Update 3 addresses feedback. A particularly aggressive chunk has been calling me a bad mother and an idiot for reuniting with Andrew. I know some people will disagree with my decision to reunite with Andrew, but we've been together for a while. We've had problems, and what he did recently was wrong, but I'll give him a chance if he's eager to improve. I support our marriage and see no problem. Lots of ladies do it. Great things happen for some. Andrew changed after that talk, so I want to think I'm one of those ladies. Should he return to normal, I know what to do. I want to keep our marriage for now. Wanting that for myself is fine. Constant hatred destroys my heart. Despite his horrible fatherhood, many have branded me selfish for dating him. Personally, I disagree. A good father trying to improve. So that matters. We're halfway into our vacation, and things are going well, so I wanted to inform you, but you're mistaken. When we get home, we'll start couples counseling, which will assist. Many of you have been invested in my story, so I wanted to know more. If people truly believe I'm not intended for him, they may ignore this message. Keep negative comments to yourself, it's not worth it. Andrew and I are happy, and our kids benefit. Please respect our family's decision. We won't break up if you wish. Update 4. Hello everybody. Long time since I visited Reddit. Maybe my last post was too intense to update. I vented about the hate. But Andrew and I are still together, which makes me happy. Our vacation was 7 months ago. We found local couple counselors after returning and have been in treatment for months. Andrew has cut his hours and we're doing fine. Increasingly active in the family and caring for the kids. Now it's more than fun, he's always there at home. I like that he no longer brings work home. We also feel like we found each other after a while. Since we learned we loved one. Other on vacation, we've increased our date nights to reignite the flame. Things have been so frantic and intense over the past couple of years that we forgot. We need our parents to watch the kids so we can go out 2 nights a month. Life goes beyond kids and employment. That may have caused mayhem. Since we began marriage counseling, Andrew has never been a better husband or parent. Most importantly, youngsters are happier than ever. Actually, we both wanted that. They appreciate their father more. When I see them, I know I chose well by staying with him. We are all we have, regardless of wealth. He probably worried too much about the future, but we're going on another road trip in a few weeks that'll be better. The kids are excited, so we'll make it amazing this time. You know what? Whether true or not, we want to address it like family. We can do anything with each other, as the past several months have proved. Though cliched, it's true.